The storm rolled into Seattle-Tacoma International Airport with the fury of the Pacific Northwest at its worst. Rain hammered against the terminal windows while wind howled through the corridors, and flight after flight flashed delayed on the departure boards in angry red letters. Dr. Catherine Monroe sat in her wheelchair near gate C-17, watching the chaos unfold around her with the detached observation of someone who'd learned to expect disappointment. At 35, she was the youngest Chief Innovation Officer in the history of Biomed Solutions, a pharmaceutical company worth $3 billion. She'd revolutionized drug delivery systems, held 17 patents, and commanded respect in boardrooms across 3 continents. But tonight, stranded in an airport during the worst November storm in a decade, she was just another frustrated traveler with nowhere to go. Catherine checked her phone for the 100th time. Her flight to Boston had been delayed 4 hours already, with no guarantee it would leave tonight at all. The conference she was supposed to keynote tomorrow morning, the one where she'd planned to announce her latest breakthrough in cancer treatment delivery, might have to proceed without her. She typed a message to her assistant. Flight still delayed. May need to reschedule keynote. The response came immediately. Already drafting contingency plans. Do you need anything? Catherine stared at the question. What she needed wasn't something her assistant could provide. She needed human connection that wasn't transactional. She needed someone to talk to who wasn't on her payroll. She needed to feel like something more than a brilliant mind trapped in a body that had betrayed her 8 years ago. The car accident that had severed her spinal cord had happened on a rainy night not unlike this one. She'd been 27, 3 years into her postdoctoral research, convinced she was invincible. The drunk driver who'd crossed the center line had taught her otherwise in the span of 3 terrible seconds. Excuse me, is anyone sitting here? Catherine looked up to find a man in his early 40s, wearing faded jeans and a Seattle Seahawks hoodie, holding a small backpack in one hand and the hand of a young boy in the other. The child couldn't have been more than 6, with thick glasses that magnified curious brown eyes and a superhero cape tied around his neck. It's all yours, Catherine said, gesturing to the empty seats around her. Thank you. The man helped the boy settle into a seat, then collapsed beside him with the exhaustion of someone who'd been traveling all day. I'm Marcus Webb. This is my son, Leo. Catherine Monroe. Leo was staring at her wheelchair with the unfiltered curiosity of childhood. Catherine braced herself for the inevitable awkward questions that adults usually hushed before the child could ask them. That's so cool, Leo said suddenly. Does it go fast? Catherine blinked, surprised. Excuse me? Your chair. Does it have speeds? Like a car. Leo's eyes were wide with genuine interest, not pity or discomfort. Marcus looked mortified. Leo, that's not. It's okay, Catherine interrupted, finding herself smiling for the first time in hours. It doesn't have speeds exactly, but I can make it go pretty fast when I need to. Awesome. Leo pulled off his backpack and dug inside, producing a battered notebook covered in superhero stickers. I'm making inventions. Want to see? Before Catherine could respond, Leo was showing her page after page of elaborate drawings. Flying cars, robot pets, a machine that turned vegetables into candy, a device that could make it sunny on rainy days. These are remarkable, Catherine said, genuinely impressed by the child's imagination and the detailed annotations he'd added to each drawing. Are you an inventor, Leo? I'm going to be, Leo said with absolute confidence. Daddy says if you can imagine it, you can build it. You just have to figure out how. Your daddy sounds like a smart man. Marcus chuckled. I'm a mechanic, actually. I fix cars for a living. But I've always told Leo that the best inventors are the ones who see problems and imagine solutions. Catherine studied Marcus more carefully. His hands were calloused, his clothes practical rather than fashionable, but his eyes held intelligence and warmth. There was a depth there that spoke of someone who'd lived through difficulty and emerged with his humanity intact. What brings you to Seattle? She asked. Marcus's expression grew more serious. Medical appointment at Seattle Children's Hospital. Leo has a rare genetic condition affecting his vision. We're here for a consultation about a new treatment. Leo didn't seem bothered by the mention of his condition. He was already flipping to a new page in his notebook, drawing what appeared to be special glasses with built-in telescopes. "I'm making better eyes," Leo explained without looking up, "so I can see everything, even the really tiny stuff." Catherine felt something twist in her chest. This child, facing his own medical challenges, was responding with creativity and determination rather than despair. When had she lost that kind of resilience? "Where are you from?" Catherine asked. "Spokane," Marcus replied. "Small town, about 4 hours east. We don't have the kind of specialists Leo needs, so we make the trip to Seattle every few months." "That must be difficult." Marcus shrugged. "It's worth it. Leo's worth it." The simple declaration, delivered without drama or self-pity, made Catherine realize how transactional most of her relationships had become. When was the last time someone had done something for her simply because she was worth it, not because she was brilliant or successful or useful? "Are you traveling alone?" Marcus asked, noticing the absence of any companions or obvious signs of business colleagues. "I am," Catherine said. "I have a conference in Boston tomorrow. Or I did, before the storm decided otherwise." "What kind of conference?" "Medical research. I work in pharmaceutical development." Leo's head popped up immediately. "Like making medicine?" "Exactly like that. I help create new ways to deliver medicine to people who are sick." "That's so cool." Leo's enthusiasm was infectious. "Do you make it taste better? Because some medicine tastes really yucky." Catherine laughed. "I'm working on that, actually. Medicine shouldn't make you feel worse before it makes you feel better." "See, Daddy? She gets it." The announcement came over the intercom. Their flight to Boston was canceled. All passengers were advised to seek rebooking at the ticket counter or find accommodation for the night. Catherine closed her eyes, feeling the familiar weight of frustration settle over her. Tomorrow's keynote was crucial. The research she was presenting could change cancer treatment protocols worldwide. "And now, are you okay?" Leo's small voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. Catherine opened her eyes to find the boy watching her with concern that seemed far too mature for his age. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just disappointed about my flight." "Daddy says disappointments are just opportunities wearing disguises," Leo said solemnly. "You have to look really hard to find the opportunity part. But it's always there." Marcus cleared his throat. "That's actually not how I phrased it, but close enough." "It's good advice regardless of the phrasing," Catherine said softly. As other passengers rushed toward the ticket counter, creating a chaotic mass of frustrated humanity, Catherine remained seated. What was the point of rushing? Her assistant could handle the rebooking. Right now, strangely, she found she'd rather stay here talking to a mechanic and his 6-year-old son than deal with the logistics of corporate travel. "Our flight's delayed too," Marcus said, checking his phone. 4 hours and counting. "Leo's going to be exhausted by the time we finally get home." "I'm not tired," Leo protested, even as he yawned. "Of course not," Marcus agreed with a smile that suggested this was a familiar battle. Catherine found herself asking, "Have you eaten? There's a decent restaurant upstairs if you're hungry." Marcus hesitated. "That's kind of you, but..." "Please," Leo interrupted. "I'm really hungry, and maybe Catherine knows some good food that doesn't taste like airplane pretzels." Catherine felt warmth spreading through her chest. When was the last time someone had wanted her company simply for the pleasure of it? "I do know some good food," she said, "and I hate eating alone." The restaurant was nothing special. A typical airport establishment with overpriced mediocre food. But somehow, sharing a meal with Marcus and Leo transformed it into something memorable. Leo insisted on sitting next to Catherine, peppering her with questions about her work while demolishing a burger that was almost bigger than his head. Marcus watched his son with a mixture of amusement and affection that Catherine found herself envying. "Leo, let Dr. Monroe eat her dinner," Marcus said gently after the 10th consecutive question. "It's fine," Catherine assured him. "I like his curiosity. It reminds me why I became a scientist in the first place." "Why did you?" Marcus asked. Catherine paused, her fork halfway to her mouth. "I wanted to fix things that seemed unfixable. I wanted to solve problems that everyone else said were impossible." "Did you?" Leo asked with his characteristic directness. "Sometimes," Catherine admitted, "and sometimes the problems fixed me instead." Marcus's eyes met hers with understanding. "The accident?" Catherine was surprised she'd revealed so much. She didn't talk about her disability with strangers. But somehow, with Marcus and Leo, it felt natural. 8 years ago. Drunk driver. Rainy night. 3 seconds that changed everything. "I'm sorry," Marcus said quietly. "Don't be," Catherine replied, and realized she meant it. "It made me who I am. Angry for a while, determined always. I threw myself into research that could help people like me. And I discovered I was good at it. Really good. The best inventors are the ones who understand the problems personally," Marcus said, echoing his earlier wisdom to Leo. "Exactly." They talked for over an hour, conversation flowing easily from topic to topic. Marcus shared stories of Leo's inventive spirit, how the boy had once tried to build a flying machine out of cardboard boxes and string, how he approached his vision problems with curiosity rather than fear. "His mother," Marcus said quietly when Leo was distracted by a passing service dog. "She didn't handle his diagnosis well. She left when he was 2. Said she couldn't handle raising a child with special needs." "That must have been devastating." "For both of us," Marcus agreed. "But we figured it out together. Leo's taught me more about courage and resilience than I could ever teach him." Catherine found herself sharing things she rarely discussed. The isolation that came with success, the way her disability had become both defining and invisible in corporate spaces, the exhaustion of always having to prove herself while simultaneously pretending her wheelchair didn't make everything harder. "Do you have family?" Marcus asked. "Someone to talk to about all this?" Catherine laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I have parents who send cards on holidays and check in quarterly like I'm a stock portfolio they're monitoring. I have a brother who lives in Singapore and remembers my birthday about half the time. And I have colleagues who respect my work but would never think to ask how I'm actually doing." "That sounds lonely." "It is," Catherine admitted, surprising herself with the honesty. "I've built this incredible career, achieved things I never dreamed possible. But somewhere along the way, I forgot to build a life." Leo returned to the table, his service dog fascination satisfied. "Catherine, do you have any kids?" "No, sweetheart. I don't." "Why not? You'd be a really good mom. You're smart and you listen and you don't talk to me like I'm a baby." Marcus looked mortified. "Leo, that's personal." "It's okay," Catherine said, feeling her throat tighten. "That's one of the nicest things anyone said to me in a long time, Leo." The boy beamed at her, then yawned hugely. "Daddy, I'm tired now." "I know, buddy. Let's head back to the gate. Maybe we'll have an update on our flight." As they gathered their things, Catherine felt an unexpected reluctance to let this connection end. For 3 hours, she'd been just Catherine, not Dr. Monroe, the brilliant scientist, not the youngest CIO in her company's history, not the wheelchair user who had to constantly prove her competence. Just a woman having dinner with new friends. "Thank you," she said as they prepared to part ways. "This was unexpected." "The best things usually are," Marcus replied with a smile that made her heart skip. Leo threw his arms around Catherine in a spontaneous hug. "I hope you solve all your impossible problems," he whispered. Back at her gate, alone again, Catherine found she couldn't focus on work emails or research papers. Instead, she kept thinking about Marcus's calloused hands and kind eyes. Tom about Leo's boundless imagination and courage, about the family they'd built together in the face of abandonment and medical challenges. Her phone buzzed. Her assistant. Booked you on first flight tomorrow morning. 6 a.m. Car service arranged. Catherine typed back, "Thank you. Any word on tonight's accommodation? Ritz-Carlton downtown. Usual suite. Need anything else?" Catherine looked around the terminal, at the stressed travelers and crying children and exhausted airline staff. "No, I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. She was accomplished and successful and completely, utterly alone. She found herself thinking about Leo's words. Disappointments are just opportunities wearing disguises. What was the opportunity hidden in this canceled flight? This unexpected evening with strangers who'd felt like friends. Catherine pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts. Hundreds of names representing business relationships, networking connections, professional obligations. Not a single person she could call just to talk, just to share this strange, meaningful evening with someone who would care. She was about to put the phone away when she noticed Marcus had left his notebook on the table. The battered thing with superhero stickers was lying abandoned near her wheelchair. Catherine picked it up, flipping through the pages of elaborate inventions and childish dreams. On the last page, there was a new drawing she hadn't seen before. A woman in a wheelchair with a cape, flying over a city. Below it, in Leo's careful printing, Dr. Catherine, the superhero who fixes impossible things. Catherine felt tears burning her eyes. When was the last time someone had seen her as a hero rather than a success story or an inspiration porn headline? She checked the time. Marcus and Leo's flight wasn't leaving for another 3 hours. She could find them, return the notebook, and maybe, just maybe, figure out what opportunity this disappointment was disguising. Catherine found them at Gate B12, Leo asleep across 2 chairs with his superhero cape serving as a blanket while Marcus worked on a laptop that had seen better days. "You forgot this," Catherine said quietly, holding up the notebook. Marcus looked up, surprise and pleasure crossing his face. "Leo's going to be relieved. That thing is his most prized possession." "I can see why." Catherine hesitated. "Can I sit with you for a while? My gate is depressingly empty, and I find I'd rather have company." "We'd like that," Marcus said, closing his laptop. "Leo will be excited to see you when he wakes up." They talked for the next 2 hours while Leo slept, conversation ranging from the deeply personal to the wonderfully trivial. Marcus told her about growing up in foster care, about finding his passion for mechanics as a teenager, about the joy and terror of raising a son with special needs as a single father. Catherine shared her own story. The pressure of being a prodigy, the expectations that had driven her to excellence, the accident that had forced her to rebuild her identity, the success that had come at the cost of personal connections. "Do you ever regret it?" Marcus asked. "The choices that led to where you are now?" Catherine considered the question carefully. "I regret that I let success become a substitute for happiness. I regret that I have 17 patents but no one to share my victories with. I regret that I've become so good at being alone that I've forgotten how to let people in." "It's not too late," Marcus said softly. "To build something different, to choose connection over achievement. Isn't it? I'm 35, set in my ways, successful beyond what most people dream of. What would I even change?" "Everything," Marcus suggested with a smile. "Start small. Instead of eating alone, eat with people who make you laugh. Instead of working every weekend, spend time with people who see you as Catherine, not Dr. Monroe. Instead of proving yourself to everyone else, prove to yourself that you deserve to be happy." "You make it sound simple." "It's not simple, but it's possible." Leo stirred, opened his eyes, and immediately spotted Catherine. "You came back." He scrambled up, suddenly wide awake. "Did you see my drawing of you?" "I did," Catherine said, voice thick with emotion. "It's the most wonderful thing anyone's ever made for me. You can keep it if you want." Daddy says the best inventions are the ones we give away. Catherine carefully tore the page from the notebook, folding it gently. I'll treasure this, Leo. The announcement came. Their flight was finally boarding. Marcus began gathering their belongings, and Catherine felt panic rising in her chest. This connection, this unexpected evening that had cracked open something in her heart. It couldn't end here. Not like this. Marcus, she said quickly, before courage could fail her. Would you and Leo consider visiting Boston sometime? I'd love to show Leo my lab. Let him see how real inventions happen. Marcus studied her face, seeing past the professional invitation to the personal hope beneath. We'd like that. But Catherine, I should tell you, I'm not looking for a benefactor or a mentor for Leo. If you're inviting us because you feel sorry for us, I'm inviting you because for the first time in 8 years, I spent an evening being happy instead of being successful, and I want more of that. I want more of Leo's questions and your wisdom and feeling like I'm not alone in this world. Then yes, Marcus said softly. We'd love to visit. They exchanged numbers, made tentative plans, shared a goodbye that felt less like an ending and more like a beginning. As Catherine watched them disappear down the jetway, she felt something shift inside her chest. She'd wake up early, catch her flight, deliver her keynote to thunderous applause. She'd accept congratulations on her breakthrough research, field interview requests, and maintain her reputation as one of the brightest minds in pharmaceutical development. But tonight, something more important had happened. She'd discovered that success meant nothing without someone to share it with, that brilliance couldn't compensate for loneliness, that the most important breakthroughs happened in the heart rather than the lab. Her phone buzzed. Marcus. Leo says to tell you that superheroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear white coats and sit in wheelchairs. Thank you for tonight. Catherine typed back. Thank you both for reminding me what really matters. See you in Boston. As she made her way to her hotel, Catherine realized that her canceled flight had delivered exactly what she needed. A reminder that the most valuable connections happen when we stop performing success and start showing up as ourselves. The storm still raged outside, but inside, Catherine felt something that had been frozen for years beginning to thaw. Hope, connection, the possibility of building a life that included more than achievements and accolades. Tomorrow would bring challenges and responsibilities. But tonight, for the first time in longer than she could remember, Catherine went to sleep with a smile on her face and a child's drawing of a superhero tucked carefully in her bag. Sometimes the best things in life came from the worst circumstances. Sometimes canceled flights led to found families. Sometimes sitting alone in an airport was exactly where you needed to be to discover you didn't want to be alone anymore. And sometimes, just sometimes, a mechanic and his 6-year-old son could teach a brilliant scientist the most important lesson of all. That being successful and being happy weren't the same thing, but with courage, they could both be true. 3 months later, Catherine stood in her lab at Biomed Solutions, watching Leo press his nose against the glass, separating the observation area from the sterile research space. His eyes, now fitted with the experimental lenses the Seattle specialists had provided, were wide with wonder as he took in the sophisticated equipment and careful processes. This is so cool, Leo breathed for the 100th time that afternoon. Marcus stood beside his son, one hand resting protectively on Leo's shoulder, but his eyes were on Catherine. In the 3 months since their airport meeting, they'd talked almost daily. Video calls where Leo showed off his latest inventions and Marcus shared stories of his workday. Conversations that stretched late into the night as Catherine and Marcus discovered how much they had in common despite their different worlds. Dr. Monroe? Her assistant poked his head into the observation room. The board is waiting for your quarterly presentation. Catherine glanced at her watch. She had 15 minutes to get to the boardroom, but for once, she wasn't rushing to prioritize work over everything else. Tell them I'll be there in 10 minutes, she said. And Jeremy? Clear my schedule for this evening. I'm taking my guests to dinner. Jeremy's eyebrows rose. Catherine Monroe never canceled work for personal reasons, but he simply nodded. Of course, I'll let them know. After he left, Marcus smiled at Catherine. You don't have to rearrange your schedule for us. I'm not rearranging for you, Catherine replied, reaching for his hand. I'm rearranging for me. I'm choosing what matters. Leo, oblivious to the adult subtext, was already tugging on Marcus's other hand. Daddy, can we come back tomorrow? Catherine promised to show me the robots that mixed the medicine. We'll see, buddy. Catherine has important work to do. Actually, Catherine said, surprising herself with the words, I was thinking you might consider moving to Boston. Biomed is looking for someone to head our new medical device workshop, designing and building prototypes for assistive technologies. It's a newly created position, and I immediately thought of you. Marcus stared at her. Catherine, you don't have to create a job just to. I'm not creating it for you. The position is real, and we've been interviewing candidates for months. But none of them understand accessibility the way you do. None of them have lived experience with medical challenges. None of them would see the problems from the user's perspective. What about Leo's treatment? His specialists are in Seattle. Boston Children's Hospital is one of the best pediatric facilities in the world, Catherine said gently. I already spoke with the head of ophthalmology. They'd be happy to take Leo on as a patient. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, studying Catherine's face. This isn't just about the job, is it? No, Catherine admitted. It's about the fact that I've been more myself in the 3 months I've known you than I've been in 8 years of building my career. It's about Leo teaching me that imagination matters more than achievement. It's about wanting to build a life that includes more than work. Catherine, I can't uproot Leo's life just because we've become friends. We're more than friends, Catherine said quietly, aware that Leo was still exploring the lab and couldn't hear them. At least I hope we are. I'm falling in love with you, Marcus. With both of you. With the family you've built and the life you've created and the way you see possibilities instead of obstacles. Marcus's eyes were bright with emotion. I've been terrified to say anything. You're Dr. Catherine Monroe, brilliant scientist, successful beyond measure. And I'm just a mechanic from Spokane who barely finished community college. You're a father who raised an extraordinary child alone. You're an inventor who sees solutions where others see problems. You're the first person in years who's made me feel like Catherine instead of Dr. Monroe. She squeezed his hand. I don't need you to have degrees or accolades. I need you to keep being exactly who you are. Daddy, look. Leo's voice carried across the lab. This machine has 17 different settings. Marcus laughed, the sound full of joy and possibility. Okay, let's do it. Let's move to Boston and see what happens. Really? Really? But Catherine, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise that we'll keep each other balanced. I'll remind you that there's life outside the lab, and you'll help me dream bigger than just getting by. We'll build something together. Not just a relationship, but a real partnership. Catherine felt tears streaming down her face. I promise. And Marcus, thank you for seeing me. Not the wheelchair, not the success, just me. That's the only part I've ever been interested in, Marcus replied and kissed her. 1 year later, Catherine stood at the front of a different kind of auditorium. Not a medical conference or board meeting, but a middle school assembly where she'd been invited to speak about careers in science. Leo, now 7 and thriving in his new school, sat in the front row wearing his ever-present superhero cape and a shirt that read, Future Inventor. Beside him sat 3 other children in wheelchairs, students Catherine had mentored through Biomed's new outreach program for kids with disabilities interested in STEM fields. Marcus watched from the side of the auditorium, no longer a mechanic but the head of Biomed's assistive technology workshop, where he'd already designed 6 revolutionary medical devices that were improving lives around the world. I used to think, Catherine told the assembled students, that success meant being the youngest, the first, the best. I collected achievements like other people collect stamps, always reaching for the next milestone, the next breakthrough, the next accolade. She paused, her eyes finding Marcus and Leo in the crowd. But then I met a 6-year-old boy in an airport who taught me that the best inventions come from imagination, not achievement. Who showed me that disability doesn't limit dreams, it just changes how we pursue them. Who reminded me that being smart means nothing if you're not also kind. Leo was beaming, showing his Dr. Catherine, drawing to the student next to him. I met his father, who taught me that success without connection is just loneliness with better furniture. Who showed me that the most important work we do isn't in laboratories or boardrooms, but in the small moments of care and attention we give to the people we love. Catherine wheeled closer to the edge of the stage. You might face challenges that other kids don't. Your bodies might work differently, your brains might process information in unique ways. People will underestimate you, doubt you, tell you to lower your expectations. She gestured at the children in wheelchairs, at Leo with his thick glasses, at all the students watching with varying degrees of hope and skepticism. But here's what I want you to know. Your challenges don't define your limits. They define your perspective. They give you insights that other people miss. They make you exactly the kind of innovator the world needs. After the assembly, children swarmed around Catherine with questions and drawings and dreams they wanted to share. Marcus helped manage the chaos while Leo appointed himself her official assistant, importantly telling other kids when it was their turn to talk to Dr. Catherine. One girl, maybe 9 years old, in a wheelchair similar to Catherine's, waited until the crowd thinned before approaching. "Dr. Monroe," she said quietly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you ever feel like you're not enough? Like, because of your wheelchair, you have to be extra good at everything to prove you deserve to be here?" Catherine felt the question pierce her heart. She'd spent 8 years feeling exactly that way, driving herself to excellence to prove her disability didn't matter, exhausting herself with the constant need to exceed expectations. "I used to feel that way every single day," Catherine said honestly. "But then someone very wise helped me understand something. You don't have to earn the right to take up space in this world. You belong here, wheelchair or not. Your worth isn't conditional on being exceptional." "But how do you stop feeling like you have to prove yourself?" Catherine glanced at Marcus, who was helping Leo show another child his invention notebook. "You find people who see you for who you really are, not what you achieve. You build a life that includes more than work. And you remember that being enough means being yourself, not being perfect." The girl nodded slowly, processing this wisdom. "And someday," Catherine added with a smile, "you might meet someone in an airport who reminds you of all this when you've forgotten, because sometimes the universe sends exactly the right people at exactly the right time." As families began to leave, Marcus approached with Leo, who was yawning despite his excitement. "Ready to go home?" Marcus asked. "Home." The word settled over Catherine like a warm blanket. Home wasn't her penthouse or her lab or her office. Home was wherever Marcus and Leo were, in the modest house they'd bought together in Cambridge, where Leo's inventions covered every surface and Marcus's tools spilled from the garage. Home was Saturday morning pancakes and Leo's endless questions and Marcus's patient answers. Home was family dinners where they all shared their daily victories and challenges. Home was Marcus's arms around her at night, reminding her that success and love weren't mutually exclusive. They were just both necessary. "Yes," Catherine said. "Let's go home." As they left the school, Leo walking between his two favorite people, he suddenly stopped. "Catherine," he said, "remember that drawing I made of you in the airport? The superhero one? Of course. It's framed in my office. I was right, wasn't I? You are a superhero." Catherine smiled, squeezing Marcus's hand. "We all are, sweetheart. Everyone who keeps going when things are hard. Everyone who helps others. Everyone who chooses kindness over winning. We're all superheroes." "Even me?" Leo asked. "Especially you," Catherine assured him. "You're the superhero who saved me, Remember? They walked to the car together. This family built from an airport delay and a canceled flight, from a child's curiosity and a father's wisdom, from a brilliant woman's realization that she'd rather be happy than impressive. Catherine had spent 35 years building a career that commanded respect. But it had taken one evening with strangers to teach her how to build a life worth living. As Marcus helped Leo into the car and Catherine transferred into the passenger seat, she thought about that stormy November night in SeaTac, about the woman she'd been. Successful, isolated, convinced that achievement was enough. That woman wouldn't recognize this Catherine, who left work at 5 to make dinner with her family, who spent weekends at Leo's soccer games instead of in the lab, who'd learned that the most important discoveries happened in living rooms and around dinner tables. But this Catherine wouldn't trade places with that woman for anything, because she'd finally learned what Leo had tried to tell her that first night. Disappointments really were just opportunities in disguise. Her canceled flight had canceled her old life and opened the door to something infinitely better. She'd stopped sitting alone. And in learning to let people in, she'd discovered that the most important breakthrough of her life had nothing to do with pharmaceutical research and everything to do with the human heart. As they drove home through Boston's evening traffic, Leo chattering in the back seat about his next big invention and Marcus's hand warm in hers, Catherine smiled. She was Dr. Catherine Monroe, brilliant scientist and successful executive. But more importantly, she was Catherine, beloved and loving, part of a family, no longer alone. And that made all the difference.